In this video, it's time for round 2 with Ecotricity. That's right. For those of you that saw my last video, you know that I had a bit of a battle with an Ecotricity charger. If you haven't seen that, I suggest you go and watch it now, because otherwise this might not make a whole lot of sense. And there's been an overwhelming response to that, where I had problems with both Ecotricity and Osprey on the same day in a rather horrible series of events. And some of your comments on that have been quite interesting indeed, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in turn. But right now I'm at Gloucester Services North. The last time I was at Gloucester Services southbound. And someone said to me that they've got a ZS EV and it never charges for them at Gloucester South, but they often do manage to get a charge at Gloucester North. So I thought, well, in the interest of giving Ecotricity another go, we'll give that a go, shall we? Very similar looking unit, same manufacturer, I imagine very similar age, given that the two services were opened within quick succession of each other. But it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So let's get plugged in, see if it works, and then hopefully we can talk a bit more about some of the reaction to the last video. So, same old story, to plug in. That connector is well mangled. Hopefully it's going to work. So I'm told on this one that holding the connector in place while it does its thing is the thing to do. We might actually be charging. Excellent. A little bit higher state of charge this time. Didn't run quite as low as the last time, but still pulling 79 amps. Not terrible. So it looks like that was right enough. The charger at Gloucester North seems to work a little bit better. We're plugged in, we're pulling 79 amps, 31 kilowatts. It's not great, but it's not too bad. I mean, we're at a little bit higher state of charge than before, 28%. So you tend to notice, but especially with the ZS EV, a little bit slower charging, a little bit higher state of charge. That was actually fairly painless. The connector looks really mangled and probably needs replacement, but it's working. But why is there such an inconsistency then? Because, just over the motorway from here, the charger didn't work at all, and I've seen various reports from every time they've tried to use that charger, it hasn't worked. And, I think that shows the inconsistency. If not everybody's going to have the option of choosing whether to be on the northbound or southbound carriageway, right? It's pretty, it's not feasible at all to make that choice for most journeys. But here we are working slowly, but a little bit of a splash and dash should be good. Brings me on to the reaction to the previous video then. And there's been actually quite a lot of you commenting and sharing your experiences. And I see we've had the usual, the diesel drivers who with their 840-mile range and they can fill up in 2 minutes, and they can drive for days on end without ever stopping, apart from to put another 840 miles in the tank. And yeah, we know, okay, fair enough, right? I think anytime you mention EV charging, you're going to get those kind of responses. But what really surprised me was the number of EV drivers commenting, saying, oh yeah, I never use Ecotricity, I just completely avoid them all the time. They've been so unreliable for me that I use any other charging option. I'll never stop at a service station and try and charge, because I know that more often than not it won't work. And I've seen that as well, though, people saying, well, actually I charge at Ecotricity all the time and it works very well. More often than not, they are driving something like a Leaf which uses CHAdeMO, and I think we've established that these chargers, these DBT chargers that Ecotricity have deployed at most motorway services, the older units, they were actually designed for CHAdeMO, and then CCS was grafted onto them later as a bit of an afterthought as the number of CCS cars on the road started going up. So I think that more often than not, the people that have very positive experiences are people with CHAdeMO cars, and people with CCS cars like myself are the people that are most likely to have big problems. And that's at least as far as I can tell. And, you know, why do we have the situation where these two chargers, the one at the south and one at the north, are completely different in the characteristics of operation, when in fact they are pretty much the same unit, they are pretty much the same age as far as I can tell. I'm sure, you know, if someone's watching this that works for Ecotricity, you might know actually that one of them is much older than the other, but I'm sure they were installed when the services were opened, and therefore they're of a similar age, but correct me if I'm wrong on that for sure. And then you had some of the other responses that really surprised me were, oh, how stupid is it? You turn up at a charger without an app and then moan about the fact it uses an app. Well, I'm sorry, but it might be for some EV drivers that you'll plan every journey like a military-style operation, but I think you need to get a bit real with it. Not everyone is going to sit down and work out exactly where every charger is on the possible route that they're taking, and then, oh, I need this app for this one or this card for this one. That's not realistic at all. And in any case, I downloaded the app when I was at the charger. I moaned about it a little bit because you shouldn't need an app to activate a charge, but I don't see the big deal. It wasn't difficult. It was just a bit of a pain. And if this mobile signal had been a bit patchy here, it would have been even worse. But I'm not sure where the stupidity comes into it, really. I mean, yes, I could have planned in advance. I could have downloaded the app, but I think we need to be a bit more realistic about what the average driver is going to do. Nobody plans in advance to stop to fill up their car at a certain petrol station and then make sure they've got the loyalty card for that petrol station in advance before they get there. I think you need to get a bit real with your expectations. As EV adoption grows and grows, less and less people are going to be willing to do that. They're going to want to expect people to get in their car and drive it, and when it needs charging, plug it in and it'll charge. And they'll, without even necessarily knowing who the charge point operator is at the service station they pass, they'll know, oh, I've seen there's a charger there, so when I need to charge, I'll plug it in there and it'll charge. That should be the expectation. Oh, and oh, how stupid are you for letting your charge run so low on a motorway journey? Well, how early do you want to plug in? I mean, we were still at sort of 12-13% when I plugged into the Ecotricity charger that didn't work. Obviously, yes, it got really, really low as I drove to the plan B, but how early are you going to plug in? How short a journey are you going to be able to do between charges if you're scared of letting your charge run low? If we had reliable charging, a decent charging network, that shouldn't be that much of a concern. And I'm not sure I buy that. I'm not sure I'm into, oh, don't let your charge run too low, make sure you plug in early. You'll never get anywhere if you do that. So while this charger is working, we're down to about 20 kilowatts now. So we started about 31, we're down to about 20. The state of charge is it's 37%. So it's gone up a little bit, but you know, we're down to 20 kilowatts already. So like the Instavolt unit that I used the other day as my last resort, we're almost still at 20 kilowatts at like 85%. So I'm not sure all is particularly well with this particular unit. It's working, but I'm not sure it's working as well as it should. Another comment was, surely it's actually the software in your MG that's at fault and not these two chargers that you've tried. Well, there may well be an incompatibility issue with these old Ecotricity chargers. I don't know. However, the Osprey charger, the second one that I tried in the last video, if you look back through my videos, you'll see that I actually used it in the past and it worked absolutely flawlessly. The CEO of Osprey actually responded to me when I was giving them a little bit of shit on Twitter for the experience that I had, and he responded saying that the particular unit that I tried had a firmware issue that they were looking to resolve, and the CCS was actually out of action. So there was a known fault with the CCS on that charger, so not actually related to the car. It was out and out a problem with the charger. The jury's still out on Ecotricity. I don't know if there is an incompatibility issue here, but you would expect them to have analysed, you know, because it's not like, I know MG's a sort of a small time manufacturer, right, but they're shifting decent volume of these cars now. You'd expect one of the bigger charge point operators in the UK to make sure that their units work with these cars. And I mean, the one I'm on now is working, albeit a little bit slowly. So I'm not buying your theory, I'm afraid. Just stay away from Ecotricity. There are plenty of options just off the motorway. Yeah, I agree with you, right? That there are. Even in Gloucester, you'll find Instavolt, you'll find Osprey if it's working, and you'll find other options too. And you could just come off the motorway, charge, and rejoin. And that's great. You will charge. And if you want to take that approach, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that is possibly the way to make sure you're going to have a reliable journey and you're going to be able to charge and have the least amount of hassle. But it's not good enough, is it? We should be able to pull into a service station, charge a car, and keep going again. If a service station or a group of them continually had problems dispensing diesel, I think someone would step in and either remediate it or change the franchisee very quickly, right? I don't see how electric charging should be any different. Did you report the charger failure to Ecotricity? Did you phone the helpline? Or you should have reported it. The answer to that, no, I didn't. Maybe I should have. The reason for that is twofold. One is that when it fails, the charger and the app actually both tell you that they've reported the fault. And whether that's true or not, whether they actually are able to sort of phone home and do that, I don't know. But certainly as the end user, they give that impression. Second of all, I was pretty cocksure that Osprey was going to work fine. I wasn't going to have any problems. Obviously, how wrong I was in the end. But because I thought I had that reliable plan B, I thought I'll just keep moving. If I'd been here with even less range than I had, I would probably have either, phoned the helpline, tried to get some help with starting a CCS charge, or I'd have plugged into the AC and topped up a little bit to get going, just like I did at the AC pod point when we had to bail out of Osprey and then make my way to Instavolt. So a valid point. If I had trouble in the future, maybe I would give the helpline a call, but the message on the charger itself and the message in the app were that it was sort of self-reporting the fault. I don't know how true that is. You need to check ZapMap to see if the chargers are working before you try and use them. Very valid point. ZapMap is a very reliable, useful resource in that it collates user experiences. However, the Ecotricity charger, the last update had been a few weeks prior and it said it was working. And there had been nothing since, apart from when I then reported that it wasn't working for me. And the Osprey charger, not only was it reporting it was working, it actually, because of this, it seems that because of the fault it had, it was actually reporting that it was in use and it was charging on CCS. And ZapMap actually showed that for a good couple of days after I'd been there. So I'm not sure it's 100%. I mean, to me, if a charger's showing it's charging, I'm actually probably more inclined to go there, because I'll be like, well, if it's in use, that must mean it's working. Therefore, I might need to wait 5-10 minutes, but I'll get a charge when the person that's there leaves. I don't know. ZapMap is very useful. I don't think you can take it as gospel though. Quick charge progress report. We're up to 46%. And we're now pulling around sort of 28 to 30 kilowatts, so we've gone up a little bit. Still, it's not the best, but whatever. I think it's one of those, isn't it? The nearest alternative charger is reasonably far away. You might as well stick it out a bit. I'm not going to go much beyond about 50%. I don't think that would be enough to keep me ticking over for the next couple of days. But yeah, not too impressed with the charge speed, but at least it is working. I think that's the point we'll definitely take away from this video. So there we go. Thought it was only fair to give Ecotricity another chance, and it worked this time. Fair enough. Not sure what it tells us really. In 50% of the time, we can get a charge on the network. Obviously, that's not very fair because I'd need to try a few more to make any real assumptions. But I thought it was only fair to give them another go and see how we got on. Charged a little bit slowly, only really getting up to about 31 kilowatts. Meh. But then quite a lot of people report slow charging from these cars if you start at a higher state of charge, although I didn't think being in the 20s was too high, but there we are. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.